This week's Global Travel Update presented by Rosetta Stone, helping you speak freely worldwide.
Gotta love that opening graphic. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, wherever you happen to be. Peter Greenberg here with our weekly global travel update. This week from Las Vegas. Beautiful 108 degrees here today. It's only in the morning right now, so it's only going to get worse. But why am I here? For the annual Virtuoso Travel Week. Think about 7,000 people. Every travel provider, every CEO, every owner of every airline, hotel, cruise line that you can imagine. And of course, 4,000 travel advisors from 90 countries around the world doing business, but also talking, learning, and listening about the state of travel globally. And of course, we cover that every year. And we also broadcast from here every year, our radio show as well. But most importantly, happy to join you today on the 12th of August. And lots of things to talk about. And let's start with some of the stuff in the news before we get to some of the issues. We're still covering that terrible and tragic crash of the ATR 72 in Sao Paulo in Brazil. Some of you may have seen that horrifying video of the plane literally falling from the sky. No one survived. All 62 people on board were killed. But it does raise some long-standing questions about the viability of that particular aircraft. And let me give you some history of that. I have to give you the one qualifier that we still don't know the official reason why it crashed, although the black boxes, both the cockpit voice recorder and the data recorder in the tail have been recovered and are being analyzed in the appropriate laboratories. But here's what we do know about the history of that aircraft type. You don't see ATR 72s flying in the United States, and you haven't seen them flying here for a long time. Why? Because the plane had a notorious bad history when it comes to icing. We had a terrible crash in Indiana of an American Airlines or American Eagle ATR 72 a number of years ago. And as a result of that and some additional tests, the airlines made a conscious decision and they moved all the ATRs that they still had to warm weather destinations. Most likely, or in that case, almost all of them went to Puerto Rico, where icing was not a problem. And now, have I flown the ATR 72? Many times. I think it's a great airplane with that one possible exception. I flew it recently as 2 weeks ago in Athens on a flight from Athens to Paros. But the point is, what happened on this particular crash? While we still don't know, guess what? Reports of heavy icing conditions in the Sao Paulo area reported at the very location and altitude where that plane was flying. And if you take a look at the way that plane fell in the video, there's every indication to indicate that it was a flat stall. And flat stalls happen when you lose airspeed due to weight of ice on the wings and the surfaces. So we'll wait to see what happens. But once again, the ATR having a notoriously bad history of performing in icing conditions, and this may be the situation again. We will stay on top of that. Another story that I find really interesting, I've been talking about this for years. As many of you know, I'm a real fan of trains, train travel, even not just around the world where there's some amazing trains, but also in the United States. I still love Amtrak, even though Amtrak has challenged with so many different problems, one of which, of course, is that they don't own the tracks. The freight lines do in most cases. One of which is that they haven't improved the tracks, which means we're not likely to see high-speed rail anytime soon. About the closest we get to high-speed rail in America is the Acela on the northeast corridor, which may get up to about 125 miles an hour for a couple of miles, and that it can't because of the condition of the tracks. If it went more than that, it would derail. So that's been a problem. But one of the bigger problems of Amtrak, which, by the way, goes back since Amtrak started, has been its on-time performance. Why is that? Again, it's the freight trains that don't respect Amtrak. And how many times have you been on an Amtrak train where you had to pull over to a siding to watch some 100-car freight train lumber on through? Well, finally, it's gotten to litigation. And the U.S. Justice Department has now sued Norfolk Southern, the freight line, claiming that they intentionally delay Amtrak trains. It's high time in coming. I hope that suit prevails. We deserve an on-time performance, especially if it's published as a schedule, which, of course, goes back to airlines as well. You cannot publish a schedule that you have no intention of keeping or that you know you can't keep, whether you want to try or not. And that's been Amtrak's problem. There's a limit to how many books I can bring on an Amtrak train, as much as I love to travel by train. So let's hope that the freight trains get a wake-up call with this lawsuit, and they begin to schedule their trains at a time when Amtrak will not be affected, right? So that will stay on top of that story. A lot of other things to talk about. First of all, a little housekeeping note. We have, of course, our Hidden Belize show is airing now on PBS, and you'll see it soon on Amazon, Apple TV, and premiering next month in I think September 8th is going to be our next in the Hidden series on the hidden Mississippi coast. Let's run that teaser.
Get set to discover what some call the secret coast, reborn out of pure devastation, to become a beacon of resilience, small in size, but bursting with history, beauty, and a few surprises.
There we go.
We'll take you past the usual attractions to find a place and a people unmatched in creativity and spirit. I'm Peter Greenberg, and this is America's Hidden Coast, Mississippi.
And there you have that one. Now, I want to get to some other news items of interest. You may have heard me say before that United Airlines is trying to alert their passengers in a better way when there's a delay or a cancellation with real-time text alerts that give you more than just, sorry, your flight's delayed. But in many cases, United's saying they're even going to send you weather radar maps so you can see what's affecting your flight as early as they can to give you a head start on whether or not you're going to make it from A to B or not. But there was one flight recently where the text alerts got a little crazy. It was a United Airlines flight on August 4th going from, I believe, Washington Dulles to San Francisco. I want you to watch this. It's on your screen now. This is the series of texts received by one passenger. And by the way, this flight turned out to be a 17-hour ordeal of delays and cancellations. So just scroll down at your leisure as we continue to scroll down. Keep going. Don't just give everybody time to read through this. Slow it down a little bit, Anthony, so they can see it. All right, let's go to the next slide. So what you're seeing before you switch slides, Anthony, is first they delay it, then they delay it again, then the crew times out, then they substitute an aircraft, then there's a technical issue, they delay it again, and keep going. Look at this. Now they swap out another plane. All right, next. Look at this. Unreal. So it's one thing to give you a flow of information, but after a certain amount of time, I think we have one more slide, do we? There we go. Oh yeah, please accept our apologies. And guess what? You get $175 for waiting 17 hours. You know, the U.S. Department of Transportation has a rule in place that if the airline cancels your flight for any reason, you're entitled to an immediate refund. They're now proposing new rules so that if your flight is delayed by more than 3 hours, you deserve compensation as well. $175 won't cut it. So hats off to United on one level for keeping me informed. But at a certain point, don't you think you got to cut it and just say, you're not going today. Welcome to your hotel. Here's your dinner. Here's a photograph of the plane you would have taken. Anything. But 17 hours with continuing delays, cancellations, aircraft swaps, and crews timing out. At a certain point, common sense should prevail. Not to mention, get the checkbook out. I just wanted to share that with you. Speaking of getting the checkbook out, when we talk about junk fees, a lot of times we're talking about resort fees, right? Or early checkout fees, or late check-in fees, or early check-in fees, or you name it. There are if I had to list the number of fees you can be assessed by a travel provider, we would exhaust the time allowed for us on this global travel update today. The bottom line is there are many. And then there are the ones that are downright usurious. Now, I understand that if you're going to negotiate a hotel room rate, you might also call the hotel and ask them if they'll throw in free Wi-Fi or not charge you $9 for a bottle of water that you can buy a case of for less than that, or whether or not they might throw in free parking. Here's a hotel in San Francisco. It's called the Clancy. It's located very close to the stadium for the San Francisco Giants. Check that out. That's what they want to. This is for guest parking, not visitor parking who maybe coming to the hotel restaurant. If you're staying at the hotel, they want, oh my God, you see that figure? That's per day. I mean, this is nuts. And I know that hotels need to generate revenue, but this is going a little too far. At $91 a day, they should let you live in the car while you're at the hotel. And forget the room. Just sleep in the car. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. And then finally, before we keep going, we know about bad airline behavior when it comes to passengers, but we also know about really bad passenger behavior when it comes not just to airlines, but hotels and historic sites. I mean, we're living in a selfie generation where people think the definition of a great photo has to have them in it, or they have to leave their mark, or have sex at the top of the pyramids, or deface a historic religious monument in Bali. Take a look at this. A British tourist scrawls his and his two daughters' initials on the wall of a World Heritage Site in Pompeii. Well, guess what? He got caught, and he got ordered to pay for all the restoration work, as they should have. This goes back to the old terrorism line. If you see something, say something. If you see some idiot thinking that it's a great idea to tag the Colosseum in Rome or leave his mark or her mark, at an ancient site in Egypt, nail these guys. This is really bad behavior, and the consequences need to be steep enough so that the bad behavior doesn't repeat itself. I just thought I'd share that. All right, let's go say hello to some folks, and then we'll go down and talk about some other stuff. Hello from Priya in Chicago. Scott saying hi. Robin saying hi from Williamsburg in Virginia. Randy saying from Michigan is saying hi. Hey, Sid saying hi from Thailand. I hope to be there very soon. Andrew, my buddy Andy, thank you so much for that nice comment. Wendy, hello from New Jersey. Bab is saying, you're going to have to translate that for me, Bab. Tupo pamoja. You'll have to let me know what that means. I hope it's language we can repeat. Hello from the Asheville campground to Diane. Melanie's saying, as a Brit living in Miami, I'm very upset by all the riots going on in England the last 2 weeks. And this morning, there's been a stabbing in Leicester Square, right outside the Lego store. Please be careful if you're visiting London in the near future, everyone. We have an issue in this country right now that the Republicans are running on. I understand why. It's on immigration and border control. The United States is not alone in this issue. We're seeing it in France. We're seeing it in England, throughout the United Kingdom, and that's what you're seeing in London right now. There are many countries out there that can no longer physically handle the influx of their illegal immigrants, and of course it all gets back to an economic issue, doesn't it? But we're going to be monitoring that as well. I will say that what's happening in Leicester Square would not stop me from going to London right now. These incidents are still relatively isolated, although the visuals are powerful. And let's hope that we come up with sensible immigration reform, no matter what side of the political fence you're on, because it's clearly a problem that has become a global issue and needs to be solved. So, Melanie, thank you for your comments on that. Hello, Mary Jo from Pennsylvania. And Ozzy is saying good morning to everybody in New York. Sue is saying hello from Long Beach, Washington. There are a lot of Long Beaches. There's Long Beach, California. There's Long Beach, Long Island, and a few other places. All right. All right, here we go. Jack is saying good morning from Jack and Diane from Indiana. Rockford's weighing in. I love Rockford. My roommate in college was from Rockford, 3814 Dakota Lane. His name was Glenn Budd, and I'll always remember his his brand new Ford Falcon with standard transmission and no radio. They used to sell cars like that. Charlie's saying hello to both of us, for me and Anthony. Anthony is also here in Las Vegas with me from Louisiana. A note that we'll be talking about Hidden Louisiana very soon, another show that we just completed with Charlie's help, and we actually loved our time doing that show. Jack is saying we're going to Canada for 30 days next month. Well, I'm jealous. Now's the time to go to Canada. It's gorgeous. Hello from Kentucky to Patty. Seth is saying suggestions from a family trip to, where is this now? To New Orleans in December. You know what? Email me, peter@petergreenberg.com, and I'll help you out. But you got to give me a little bit more information than that, Seth. It just can't be too general about a family trip. Are the family drinkers? You get the point. So let me know. And Debbie's saying hi from New Jersey, and hi back to you, Debbie. The bottom line right now is we're seeing still in the era of deregulation, the airlines behaving like oligopolies. I mentioned earlier that we're now going to start to see, and I've said this on the radio as well, a decrease in airline prices and hotel rates for two reasons. And they're not related, but they intersect, if you will. One is, of course, we have an election year every 4 years, and there tends to be less travel during anything that's perceived as a period of uncertainty, no matter what side of the political fence you're on. And people tend to pull back a little bit. But the other reason that's happening that a lot of people are in denial about is the $1.4 trillion in unsecured debt, otherwise known as consumer credit card debt. How many times have you been on a plane where the flight attendants are hawking their credit cards, saying that you're going to get 60,000 or 75,000 bonus miles, good for 2 free tickets anywhere they travel? That's a lie. And now you get the card, and you're excited about the card because you get even more bonus miles the minute you spend $3,000 on the card within the first 30 or 60 days. Okay, one small little item I forgot to tell you. Average credit card interest rates on these cards are between 25 and 29%. That's not simple interest, that's compounded interest. Now, if I loaned you money at 5%, okay, that's reasonable. If I loaned you money at 25%, I go to prison. But the credit card companies got an exemption. Thank you, banking lobby. And as a result, the profits are obscene, and the ability to repay becomes a challenge. Only 51% of the American public pays their credit card bills in full every month. That means 49% of us at 25 to 29% interest cannot get ahead of it. We'll never catch up. We'll never zero out the balance. And as a result, when we put all of our travels, because we all wanted to travel, we put all of our travels on our credit cards. At a certain point, we got to pay the bill. And if we can't pay the bill and we keep rolling over the balance, which continues to add on at 25 to 29% interest, at a certain point, we have to come to grips with our ability to repay it at all. And as a result, we're seeing the default rate on credit cards in this country not creep up, but start to really crawl up. And it's doing so in a noticeable way. And so as these credit card bills come in, a lot of Americans are saying, you know what? It's an election year. I've already spent the money I want to spend. So you know what? I'm going to defer all my future travel till maybe 2025 as I try to pay my bills. As a result, law of supply and demand kicks in, and guess what happens? Airfares go down. Suddenly, frequent flyer miles become available. Not at good redemption levels, but at least they become available. And of course, hotel rates come down as well. So if you're one of the 51% that actually does pay your credit card bills in full every month, this becomes an attractive buyer's market period for you on almost all aspects of travel. So watch as you start to see these fares come down, especially for the months of September through the end of the year, and with the possible exception of the Thanksgiving weekend or that Thanksgiving 7-day period when people take off on a Tuesday and come back the following Monday or Tuesday. It's really going to be in your benefit if you want to travel. For the rest of us, please pay your bills in full. It's not a pretty picture and not going to get better anytime soon. We're talking $1.4 trillion and growing in unsecured consumer credit card debt, something you really have to pay attention to or it's going to eat you. All right. So bottom line on that. Then one other note before I get to some more questions. I've talked about this before. I want people to get a map. There are a lot of cruises that are not going through the Suez Canal because of the Houthi problem there. There are a lot of cruises that are not going to Haifa or anywhere, shape, or form on the Red Sea because of what's going on in Gaza. I get that. But I'm doing a cruise this November to help benefit the University of Wisconsin Alumni Association, my alma mater, and we're doing the entire Arabian Gulf, which is not in conflict or challenge at all. I encourage you to give yourself an early Christmas present and buy an atlas. You'll see I'm right. We're going to go from Oman, and Muscat and Oman, all the way through Bahrain and then to the UAE. It's going to be a glorious trip. It benefits a great alumni association. I'll be speaking a number of times on that trip. I hope you get a chance to join me. The information on how you can do that is scrolling on the bottom. Of course, you can go to gohagentravel.com and they can help you out with the full itinerary. But again, whether you want to go on our trip or not, the bottom line is, and it really is the bottom line, please get a map, understand where things are problematical in the world and where they're not. And you'll be much better off whatever personal travel decisions you make for yourself, your loved ones, or for business. All right. Now, let us go on to some questions that you guys have asked that we're leading into today. Let me get them out here. Here we go. Speaking of the Arabian Gulf, Joy says, when is the best time to book flights to Dubai going February 15th to the 23rd? Well, here's my question. Are you just going to Dubai, and where are you going to Dubai from? Number one. And if you have extra time, you might even get a better deal on what we call an RTW ticket, which stands for Round the World. You can start, as long as you go in the same direction, you have either 6 months to a year to finish it, and you'll find that the airfare or the additional airfare to add on other cities on an RTW ticket is nominal compared to what they might charge you for a round trip ticket. Now, you'll see some great airfares out there for the moment, right? Because if you think it's hot here in Las Vegas at 108 degrees, you know nobody's in Dubai today, right? Nobody's in Saudi today. They're all vacationing in the south of France. That's why the airfares are so low right now. I mean, I saw an airfare from New York to Doha the other day for $792 round trip. I mean, you can't even get New York to LA for that in many cases. So, but if you're talking February, that's a different story. And you might want to compare prices between what you'll charge or what they will charge you for one round trip ticket from the US to Dubai versus a RTW ticket. There's a company, by the way, in Oakland that I've used before. It's called Airtreks, AIRTREKS. They can actually help you put together an itinerary that will fill that round the world ticket deal. You don't have to go through Airtreks. Each of the airlines' strategic marketing alliance, whether it's One World or Star Alliance or SkyTeam, actually has an RTW desk. So if you go to their website for each of these alliances, you can have them do it that way as well. But it's certainly something you can consider as an alternate to go to where you want to go, especially when the round trip fare to some of these destinations is ridiculous. By the way, I priced out the other day a round trip coach ticket, and Anthony is my witness, a round trip coach ticket from New York to Bangkok. Coach, everyone want to guess? $13,000. That is not a ticket, ladies and gentlemen. That's a Toyota. And the airlines are filling the seats. I have no idea who's spending that kind of money, but you're nuts, right? So my example is I could either buy the round trip ticket, New York to Bangkok coach for $13,000 on United, or go to the Star Alliance, of which United is a part, and buy an RTW ticket, right, for about $4,000 or $5,000 that lets me stop everywhere around the world that United or Star Alliance participant airline flies. It's a no-brainer, guys, so check it out. Okay, Frank says, why are airline seats so flat? That's the most uncomfortable part of traveling. Well, first of all, it's all about weight, right? The old fluffy seats with their mechanical contraptions to recline, they're gone because they weigh too much. They've even taken off, with one exception, which is about to end, the in-flight magazine because it adds too much weight to the flight, right? An airline can save over $1 million a year in fuel costs by not putting their in-flight magazine in that seat back pocket in front of you. And the airline magazine that's lasted the longest is about to say goodbye. I'm sad to report that United's in-flight magazine, Hemispheres, which I truly enjoyed reading, is ending print publication. That's it. There's no more American Way. There's no more Delta Sky. They haven't been around in a while. The last remaining in-flight magazine of a non-legacy carrier in the United States is Hawaiian. They still have their magazine, but everybody else long gone. In any case, the answer to your question about the seats is it's all about weight. And then it's all about the physics. So when an airline tells you it's got lie flat seats, at least 20% of the case, that's a flat lie, honestly. But they make it up for in a lightweight duvet that they might give you in business class, or the extra pillow, or the way the airline seat actually reclines. A lot of them don't recline back, they slide forward. And that might be ergonomically better in terms of the person sitting behind you, who will no longer have their knees or their neck in that situation. But in any case, that's why they're so flat. Greg says, and this is a question from Greg. I'm almost sorry to have to answer this, Greg, because you're not going to like the answer. Will passport stamps be gone for good in this or the next decade? Not only will passport stamps be gone for good in the next decade, my prediction is passports will be gone, because it's all going to be biometric. It's going to be facial recognition and all digital. We're doing a lot of that right now. The TSA is experimenting with a lot of that in terms of security clearance. Clear is already doing that at security checkpoints. And if you have a passport with stamps in it, don't throw it out. It's an art piece, because pretty soon you'll have stamps in there for either countries that no longer issue stamps or countries that no longer exist. I've kept every one of my passports since the age of 12, and I'm telling you, it's art. It's also a reminder of countries that no longer exist, by the way. Okay. Lisa says, is there any service which alerts you to a hotel room cancellation? Often I want to take a trip on short notice and find that all accommodations are booked. However, I know that last minute cancellations do occur. Instead of calling each hotel repeatedly, is there a service that can alert me? Not that I know of, but there's a better way to do this, right? Every hotel manager knows that an unsold hotel room is revenue they're never going to recoup once the sun rises. So you don't have to call the hotel repeatedly. You're the one who just got finished telling me you're doing this at the last minute. So call them at the last minute. That's when they're going to know. And don't call the front desk, and don't call the reservations number. Call and ask for the MOD, that's manager on duty, or the director of sales, because they're their best arbiters of their own inventory. And they know that they got to get rid of a room. Here's another way to get a cheaper room. How many times have you called the hotel to be told, well, let's go back. Are you making a reservation online? Then you're not seeing all the inventory to begin with, right? Or when you see that little sign or that sticker on the screen, and you've all seen it saying only 3 seats left on the plane or only 2 rooms left in the hotel, that's another lie. That's only 2 rooms left in the allocation that online travel agent was given by the travel provider. It's not a reflection of the actual available inventory. But now let's take a worst case situation. There are literally, you see there's no seats available on the plane. Well, in this case, no rooms available at the hotel. You call the hotel and they say to you, I'm sorry, we don't have a single room available. Actually, they do. They just don't want to tell you. And I'm not saying they're holding it for some visiting sheikh or prince. No, it's something called an out of order room. Every hotel has at least one, if not a dozen, depending on the size of the hotel. And what does an out of order room constitute? Well, maybe the lampshade's torn, or there's a crack in the mirror, or there's a chip on the sink, and it's being taken out of order to fix. And all you want is a bed, even a 3-legged bed. I can't tell you how many times I've said, you know what? I'll take an out of order room. I'll even sign the waiver. Well, that's revenue they're never going to get anyway. And so for $80 a night instead of $300, you get to sleep there for the night. And you know what? You won't cut yourself on the sink. That's one way to do it. Now, if you have a sense of humor about things, do what I've also done at least twice. And you know what? Once you do it, what are they going to say? They can only laugh and give you the room. Here's the question. I'm sorry, Mr. Greenberg, but we are fully sold out, not a single available room in the hotel. Here's my question. So let me ask you something. If the president of the United States were coming right now, would you have a room for him or her? Well, yeah. Well, I just called the White House and the president's not coming, so I'll take that room. What are they going to say then? Aha. All right, let's keep going here. Irene says, is it better to stay in Zurich and do day trips to surrounding towns, or is it better to stay in a few different spots and then end up in Zurich with Bern and Lucerne and blah, blah, blah? Okay, here's the deal. Have you heard of the Swiss trains? They're great. So you can do day trips first of all, get yourself a rail pass before you leave home. You know how the deal works. You got to buy it in conjunction with your round trip ticket from the United States, which means you have to do it before you get to Europe. Get yourself a rail pass and use the Swiss train network to do day trips, right? You can either come back to Zurich at night or stay in the other place at night. Either way, that's how you do it, right? I mean, Switzerland is not that big. All right. Trey says, I will be in Argentina for about a week starting August 21st. I'm planning our route through and am wondering if it's worth trying to visit the destination where penguin colonies stay. My understanding is they show up in September. Okay. Argentina is a big country if you look north and south. It's not an easy, you're only going to be there for a week, right? 1 week. You can't even see Buenos Aires for a week, or Mendoza if you want to go to wine country, or of course Patagonia. I mean, if you want to see the penguin colonies, you got to head south. And that means where? Places like Ushuaia. So you're trying to do too much. And in a very short period of time, you spend most of your time on a plane. So rethink this. If you want to do penguin colonies, then you're going to bypass the major cities, or at least use them to connect to other flights, but you're still not giving yourself enough time. Just my thought on a 1 week itinerary there. Okay. Alex, now this is a longer answer for the question, but what exactly does travel medical insurance cover? Does travel medical insurance cover up to deductible on U.S. health insurance? No, it doesn't. It's not applicable at all. Your health insurance or Medicare will cover you within the United States. It will not cover you outside the United States. That's where you need to get medical insurance, and that comes in the form of medical evacuation and repatriation coverage, which we've talked about many times on this update, which comes in many different forms from many different companies. You have to basically read the fine print on the language of the policy, which can also be sometimes equated with hieroglyphics, to determine what you're covered for as well as what you're not covered for. But in theory, a good policy will be this, that in the event you get sick or injured overseas, they will pay to get you medically stabilized where you are. And then in the best policies, they will then consult with your own doctor. After all, who knows your medical history better than your own physician? And then after that consultation, will determine where they're going to fly you to the medical facility and doctor of your choice. That is in the best written policies. They're not all written that way. In many cases, they'll send you to the medical facility and doctor of their choice. That's the policy you do not want, right? So where do you buy this insurance? You don't do it online. You do it through a travel advisor or a travel agent who can walk you through that policy language to determine what you're covered for and, most importantly, what you're not covered for. But to go back to your original question, outside the United States, your own medical insurance and Medicare, with almost no exceptions, does not cover you. Okay? Time to go to the photo of the week. It's from Gwen Strutzenberg. And Gwen writes, this is a view from the Willis Tower, Chicago. By the way, that's corporate headquarters of United Airlines, by the way. Chicago is my hometown, but I acted like a tourist and went up to the 103rd floor. It will forever be the Sears Tower. That was its original name. Remember when the John Hancock Tower was the tallest building in Chicago? For those of you who have flight simulators on your computer, one of the great thrills is to be really reckless and fly through those two towers on the simulator. Anyway, and isn't Chicago an absolutely stunning city? I couldn't agree with you more, Gwen. As you know, I went to the University of Wisconsin, which meant every other weekend I was in Chicago, coming down on the I-90. And I still believe then, and I still believe now, that Chicago is America's biggest, most overrated great city. And I encourage everybody, and anybody who tells you they've been to Chicago because they've changed planes at O'Hare, forget it. You don't count. Spend some days in Chicago. It's well worth it. We love it. Let's keep strolling real fast and before we say goodbye. Hold on a second. Samson's saying hello from Kenya. Okay. Oh, Diane wants to know, what about insurance when you're on a cruise? Same deal. You need that medical evacuation or repatriation insurance, especially on a cruise. For those people who used to watch The Love Boat, remember Doc? Well, the presumption was if you had a problem, Doc would just take care of you on the ship. Oh, yeah. It's called a revenue generator. If you want an aspirin on a cruise ship, you're going to get a $300 bill, right? Cruise ships are not floating hospitals, but they will certainly bill you like one. So that's when you need that insurance. right? Especially if you have to get off the ship, and that happens on a lot of cruises. Okay. All right, I'm looking here. Oh, what's my favorite airline to Japan from Vancouver? Well, believe it or not, I've become a huge fan of Air Canada these days. It's my way to get to the Middle East, right? I go New York to Toronto to Dubai in the Gulf on Air Canada. Most people don't think you can do that, but they do. They have a nonstop. If I'm on the West Coast and I want to get to either Japan or Hong Kong, you know what? A lot of times it's a better deal to go through Vancouver and fly on Air Canada. Okay. All right. Oh, Jim and Harriet now saying hi. You're late today. Are you in Las Vegas? We are at the Horseshoe. We've been here since Thursday. Yes, I am in Las Vegas. Frank is saying, watching from Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. Asante. All right. Okay. Oh, now I'm hearing from Jim and Harriet. Let me keep going here for a second. Oh, Mary Louise is saying hello from Tempe, Arizona, where it's just as hot, I'm sure, as it is here in Las Vegas. Okay. Leslie wants to know my thoughts about traveling to New Orleans in October because of possible hurricanes. This is where travel insurance comes in as well. You can insure under trip cancellation and insurance against that possible hurricane as long as you get the insurance before the hurricane is officially named. Now, a tropical storm doesn't count. A gale doesn't count. It's got to be an officially named hurricane. And in some cases, on some insurance policies, they have to order a mandatory evacuation or they have to close the airports for insurance policy to kick in. Again, you need somebody to read you the policy language, but I wouldn't stop me going to New Orleans because of a possible hurricane 2 months from now. That doesn't make any sense. All right. Hello from the Palm Desert. Hello, Jeff. And greetings from historic California, Route 66 from Terry. And Scott saying hi from Chicago, one of my favorite cities we just discussed that. Tim saying hello from Atlanta. Debbie saying hi from New Jersey, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, a couple more things I want to talk about. Aloha to Raymond. Raymond just kicked in. Nice to see you online, Raymond. A couple of housekeeping notes, of course. Travel Detective Series 9 on the air now. So check your local listings, and it's also available on Amazon and Apple TV Plus. That's episode 9 of the Travel Detective. All the other episodes, of course, available this season on either PBS, Amazon, or Apple TV Plus. And last but not least, we'll see you on the radio this Saturday from an undisclosed location. So check it out, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. It also streams live online. You can go right to our website, petergreenberg.com, for that live stream. Do it about 10:05 because that's after all the local stations do their news and weather and traffic. I hope you get a chance to do that. And in the meantime, I send you greetings from 108 degrees in Las Vegas. I thank Anthony for weathering the heat with me here as well. And I'm about to travel again. What a surprise. But I will see you next week from another undisclosed location somewhere around the world. But I will promise you it will not be Las Vegas and may not even be New York. So stick to it on that. In the meantime, everybody be safe, and I'll see you next week.